Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Grajdek. I'm Dr. Martha Grajdek. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. Any job, any workplace has the potential to either contribute to or even to cause depression, and that will depend in part on the amount of stress, for example, that a person is experiencing at work and the kind of support that they're getting at the workplace. But regardless of what we call it and what is causing or contributing to depression, whether we call it work depression or simply depression, depression is rarely confined just to work, even if work is the cause of it or a big contributor of it. So it's important to remember that depression, while it may be evident while at work or experienced the most or most profoundly while at work, will likely affect every other area of life. So depression is a serious topic of conversation. When it comes to depression, awareness and early detection are key. This means both for individuals and for the organization as a whole. The individual absolutely has to have some level of self-awareness, but it goes beyond that because the organization, and more specifically management, has to be aware of what's going on with their employees. Beyond that, both the individual and the organization must be aware of the environment and what could be contributing to or even causing work depression or just depression in general. Let's look at some of the more common signs of depression. And by no means is this an exhaustive list, but here are just some of the highlights of what depression, especially depression at work, could look like. A person could be experiencing increased fatigue. They may isolate themselves from others. Maybe they are showing up for work late or calling in sick more often. Their ability to focus or concentrate may be affected. Their motivation or productivity will likely be decreased. They may have changes in their demeanor or behavior. Maybe they're more irritable or anxious or quick to anger. They may be experiencing physical symptoms such as increased or decreased appetite or trouble sleeping. They may have other physical symptoms, maybe headaches or stomach issues or aches and pains. The list can go on and on. Some people may find themselves in need of self-medicating. Maybe that's with alcohol, maybe that's with drugs. But again, this is just a partial list. I'll have a link in the description below with an information sheet that you can download for free with a more comprehensive list of potential signs or symptoms of depression. And again, even that list is not all encompassing. It's not all inclusive. So take a look at that list so that you as an individual, you as a manager, and for everyone as an organization as a whole, you can become more aware of what work depression looks like, what depression in general can look like. Because again, awareness is the first key to dealing with something, to prevention, to addressing that serious problem of depression, and even more specifically, depression at work. The other thing that's important to understand is what are some of the potential contributors to depression, and specifically depression at work. So let's look at some of those. And again, this is not an all-inclusive list. You will be able to find this list on the information sheet, for which I've included a link in the description below. But let's think about what kind of things, what kind of factors could be contributing to depression at work. Some of the most obvious contributors could be a toxic environment. Working in a toxic environment, especially for a prolonged period of time, can be terrible to deal with and certainly can lead to depression. Things such as being overworked or being underpaid can have a tremendous effect on someone in terms of depression, amongst other things. Unsafe working conditions or having low or no job security can also contribute to that. Feeling like you have little or no control over the work that you do, over your work environment, over your job in general can also be a big contributing factor. Things such as harassment at work are a difficult thing to deal with and certainly can contribute or cause depression. So now that you are aware of what some of the symptoms of depression, and specifically depression at work, could look like, and what some of the contributing factors could be, let's talk about what an individual can do to help him or herself in this situation. And remember that while these are suggestions, things that you can do as an individual, this is not just limited to people who may be experiencing depression. If you are witnessing someone going through a difficult time, someone struggling with depression, there are things that you can do to help. As a manager, there certainly are things that you have to do to help the situation. Everybody can contribute to changing the environment and making it a better place to work. So think about it in those terms as I list some of the things that an individual can do in order to help themselves if they are dealing with depression, and even more specifically, depression that is related to work. First and foremost, please talk to your doctor. Have that conversation. It may not be an easy conversation for you to have. That depends on the person. It may not be something that you want to discuss, but it's absolutely critical to have that conversation with your doctor and feel open to the idea of seeking some help, seeking some support from a mental health specialist, whether you see a therapist, whether you see a psychiatrist, or some other form of help from a professional, a mental health professional. These are tremendous as starting points in making the situation better and working towards improving in your depression and the situation in general. Beyond that, when it comes specifically to the workplace and your experience at work, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Take regular time off, take vacations, take mental health days to give yourself a break. When you're at work, make sure that you're taking regular breaks. Everybody's entitled to regular breaks. Your meal break or your lunch break, whatever the specific case may be. But also beyond that, everybody's entitled to a couple of breaks throughout the day. As you're working, remember to stand up and stretch and take a 5-minute break before you go on to the next task. So again, remember that you are human, you are precious, you are fragile, you're not a robot. You need to take breaks, whether it's those regular meal breaks, quick bathroom breaks, or taking a mental health day and taking your vacation to which you are entitled. You may want to engage in things such as learning how to do breathing exercises that you can do throughout the day, or engaging in short meditation or short mindfulness practice. These are things that can take just a couple of minutes, 2, 3, 5 minutes, but they're simple, they're easy, you don't need any equipment, you don't need anything fancy or special, and you can do these throughout the day to help you when you are working to get beyond, to deal with the depression that you're facing, that you're living with, that you are experiencing. Every little bit helps. Go outside whenever it's possible for you to go outside. We tend to be so cooped up in our offices, in our homes, in our cars, on the subways, that there may be days when you have hardly seen any sunlight, hardly breathed any fresh air, have hardly been in the company of trees or other plants outside. So make a point of going outside on a regular basis, hopefully every single day. Go for a walk. Moving your body is important. It's a great way to help you with anxiety, with stress, with depression. So move your body, whether it's going for a walk outside, walking around the building inside, if outside is not an option, and just finding ways of moving your body in whatever way are possible in a given environment, in a given situation. And these don't have to be 30-minute or 60-minute excursions. These are just fast things that you can engage in to change things around, to move your body, to change the environment, to change the situation, to shake things up, to get out of your head, to break away from the computer screen. Sometimes you can do something as simple as watching a funny video on YouTube or wherever you find those for your particular preference. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Just a quick break. Get yourself laughing. That can be tremendous when you're struggling with depression. So the good news is that there are definitely things that you as an individual can do and absolutely should do, dare I say, must do, in order to help yourself and help your situation. Because if nothing changes, then nothing changes. So if you are experiencing the same thing and hoping for a miraculous change without doing anything differently on your own, you will probably be stuck in the same situation. But beyond the responsibility of the individual, we have the managers who absolutely have to be aware of what's going on with their employees, but also have to understand and be aware of the environment, the potential contributors, and the ways that you can make the situation better, that you can alleviate the contributing factors, that you can help individuals who struggle with depression. And remember that this goes beyond just the work environment. This will inevitably spill into an individual's personal life. So as a manager, as someone who may be in charge, someone who may be leading an organization, you absolutely have to be an engaged participant in this, because depression, whether we're speaking specifically about work depression or depression in general, is a serious topic of conversation. It's a serious consideration, and everybody, individuals, management, and the organization as a collective, absolutely must be engaged in identifying symptoms, identifying contributing factors, and in helping to improve the situation, helping to improve the situation for the individuals and helping individuals to get better. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. First and foremost, depression is a serious thing to deal with. It's a serious diagnosis. It's a big deal for someone to experience. And whether we're speaking specifically about work depression or just general depression, it is surely going to affect every area of life, meaning work and non-work domains. everybody has a responsibility to be aware of symptoms, to be aware of potential contributors or causes for depression. And we all must take responsibility in improving the situation. Whether or not you are experiencing depression, you still have the potential, the opportunity to make the environment better, to make the experience better. And certainly if you find yourself experiencing depression, please speak to your doctor. Please seek help from a mental health professional and do these things that I listed out today every day at work. Engage in something that will help you to get better, to move forward as you are working through your depression. As the week unfolds, I invite everybody to consider depression at work, work depression, as it relates to you personally, as it relates to your environment, your organization, and maybe your colleagues. As I already said, there are things that you can do, whether depression is part of your experience or maybe you are looking at how the environment could be contributing to somebody else's depression. Everybody has the responsibility and the opportunity to help and to make things better. So I invite you to think about depression at the workplace and what you can do to help, whether you're helping yourself or helping the environment and a potential help towards a colleague. Use the link below to download the free information sheet that I've created that is related to today's topic, and use that information to help you deal with work depression, whether this is a personal issue or whether you're simply looking for ways to better understand and to help the environment and those around you. For those of you who are experiencing this podcast in an audio-only version, I encourage you to check out my YouTube channel, Stress Free with Dr. G, where you can find the video version of the podcast. In addition to the video podcast, you can also find videos that focus on a comprehensive approach to stress management. So I invite you to check out Stress Free with Dr. G. The link for that is in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you here again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.